Hello and welcome back. That was interesting. Okay, welcome back to this channel, the it's an embodiment channel. I'm Corey Hess, and we've been doing these bare bones conversation. This is episode 14, I think. And today I have my lovely partner, Teresa Shojun, here. Welcome, Shojun, Teresa.
Hello, thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. I thought it would be really interesting for people to see Teresa on here. I never call her Teresa. See her on here and hear her story. And as a person who went and lived for 5 years in the monastery Sogenji in Japan, and that was a part of her life, a very powerful part, but it's not the whole story. And so I just wanted to bring her on as a person who, maybe a slightly different flavor from some of the guests I've had. So how about we start with just getting to, what brought you to spirituality? You had a really nice family, you're a really nice family in Minneapolis. And what brought you to spirituality? What turned the corner for you?
Right. Yes, I had a very sweet family and growing up experience, and I wasn't raised religiously at all. My parents were both raised Catholic, and my dad, especially, maybe my mom too, but I know my dad didn't want to have me baptized because he wanted me to be able to choose what my beliefs were going to be. So I remember at a young age hearing that and like feeling really grateful for that and like respected by that decision. So, we grew up celebrating Christmas and Easter and everything like that, but not deeply religious in any way. And what drew me to spirituality? I mean, I think it's an aspect of all of us. So I think it was always there for me. Just as a kid, I remember when we go camping growing up, I'd always try to find like my little spot in the woods away from the campsite that was like my special place that I would go to here and there during our weekend away to like sit on that log and commune with that space. So not that I thought of that exactly as spirituality, but I of course just felt that deep connection and feeling held by that space and wanting to pursue that for myself, like feeling that was an important part of who I was that I wanted to access.
Right.
And then growing up, well, I was really into theater in middle school and high school, and looking back too, I'd say like that was a really spiritual experience for me. It was definitely about not only connecting and sort of communing with the people I was creating this performance with, but also the audience and that whole energetic exchange that happens when you're like super present and all those eyes and that focus is on you as a performer. You enter into a zone space with that and a letting go of self in order to embody the character. So that was like very deeply spiritual for me. But again, wouldn't really phrase it that way. I just knew that I loved it. It fueled me. I felt like extremely energized after performing in this high that kind of didn't compare to anything else. And then let's see, then going off to college, I still did some theater, but not as much. I was studying, the liberal arts. I was an English major. So I was always interested in people and their stories, took some amazing philosophy classes, political science, and all these theories were really fascinating to me, but I felt like they weren't enough for me. Like they weren't satisfying something in me that wanted to know more or wanted like a bigger answer than changing policies or even actions of social justice or things like that. Like I wanted all that to happen. I wanted to see the world change and blossom and be in help the world be a better place as an individual. That was a longing I had. but like none of those ways that were presented in academia really felt like they were the right doorway for me, even though I loved so many of my classes and professors and it was very stimulating, but it was also sort of bogging down in ideas in academia, and it felt like heavy and not what I wanted to access. So, and then at the same time, I think it's natural at that stage in your life, late teens, early 20s, like starting to question life. And then finally kind of feeling, oh, wait, what are my spiritual beliefs? I don't know what they are. I wasn't raised with any in particular. What is life? How do I fit into this? Who am I as an individual? How can I interact with the world that I want to change or I want to see shift, but I don't know how to do that from a genuine place. I want to be of service, but how do I really serve? And yeah, and deeper than that, just my own personal questions of like, what is it to be alive? What's going on? You know, and a big turning point for me was when I traveled. When did I travel? I think it was after my junior year of college when I went abroad for the first time. And I went to Greece for a little bit, and then I was traveling through Italy. And just that was the first time I'd been somewhere where people weren't speaking my language. And I was on my own. I had something I was there for in Italy for a time. I was teaching English to Italian children through drama and song and summer camps, which was really fun. But in between that and on either end of that, I was traveling on my own. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know where I'd spend the next night. Had my little guidebook back then. And it was like, I had to access this place of trust. And it was amazing what would happen, like the people that would appear on the ferry boat that would help me find a space to sleep that night as I took the ferry from Greece to Italy and I didn't know what I was doing. Or just so many things that I was helped along. And even though I was outside of my usual context, I was outside of my usual language. Like I felt this connection to life, to people, to the flow. And I was trying to get into that flow and feel it more and more. And yet at the same time, I was totally like overwhelmed by it. And I remember laying on this little cot in Napoli at the end of my trip. A host family had connected me to another family, and I was staying with people I didn't know at all, but they had shown me this amazing time there. And I remember just laying there on that cot, just feeling like, what is it to be alive? Like what's fueling all of this? I just had this drive to understand that more. And like, I felt like I could touch it, but I couldn't, I had no way to access it deliberately. Like in performing, I feel like there's times where I'm really on in a performance and I knew how that felt, but then there's times I felt totally off and I had no tools to get back to that present place. So it's like I had these tastes through different just everyday experiences, but I couldn't work with it at all. So then, so that's when I kind of I was having these questions, but not knowing what. I wasn't looking into Zen at all. I think I was curious about different religions and reading different things, but I happened to go on a spring break trip from Whitman College where I was in school. We spent 1 week on Whidbey Island. And in that week, we happened one day to, through working with the AmeriCorps group that was here, we spent one day at Tahoma Monastery, chopping wood, working in the garden, eating lunch, and I think doing like a short meditation in the Zendo led by Yusan and Shosan were there at that time. And it made such a big impression on me, even though we were just there for an afternoon, just like the feeling of doing that work together, the feeling of eating together, the feeling of being in the Zendo, the short meditation. I just was like, I'm so thirsty for that. I don't know what that is, but I want to drink more of that. So the next year, my senior year, I helped lead that spring break trip and with a couple of dear friends, and we stayed at the monastery for 3 or 4 days. And then also, anyway, we centered that trip more around being at the monastery and sitting morning and evening. And I was just like, I don't know. I felt really, it made a big impression on me. And at that point I had signed up to do the Peace Corps after I graduated and go to West Africa. And I kind of just scratched that and wanted to, pursue this that I was finding within myself that felt so deeply important, like familiar yet so expansive and unexplored. So
I remember you said something about like how you had been kind of so in your head in college.
right. Yes, definitely. It felt like this balm to just academia and being stuck in my head and being like constipated, like literally, you know what I mean? You're just there focusing up all night in the library and you just, yeah, it didn't feel good. And this, like I say, even doing the sound when that I could start to feel myself getting back into my body. And like when I scooped the oatmeal in my bowl at Tahoma, like just taking the amount I wanted to eat and not, you know, like feeling into myself again rather than just shoveling in or being on kind of that track of academia.
I remember in college, I used to call the dining hall the trough. You just
Oh yes.
put your head in there and kind of.
Course after course, 5 desserts on the tray.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. And so you visited Japan somehow. Yusan probably got you a little
Oh, you
hooked
saw.
in.
Yes. Yes. So yeah. So senior year, I was, like I said, I was kind of signed up to go to the Peace Corps, but enamored with this whole Zen and meditation thing that I encountered. I remember asking you something, what should I do? You know, I want to go help the world, but I really, you know, I really want to explore this further. And yeah, he was so great because he put it in a perspective of like, you know, this is the way you serve. How can you actually be of service? Like you think you can go out there and help people, but if you haven't like experienced something deeply for yourself, then you're just sort of dishing out of an empty cup, and you know, you don't have as much to give as you want to or think you do. And you know, to be rooted in this and sort of be able to generate your own fuel through the practice and the energetics, then you're going to be able to help a lot more people. So that's how he phrased it for me. And I was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. It makes sense that doing this is an act of service, even though on the surface it might seem selfish. You're just going to go live in a monastery and look at your own navel or something.
And I think Yusan kind of had this, I don't know, I think in a way we were attracted to him because he was unexpected in how he existed, and we wasn't this idea of a monk, which maybe we had this idea, and then we met him. Oh, that wasn't what I thought it was, you know. And
100%. Yes.
yeah,
Oh yeah, that made it alluring. He was like do dance parties with our college kids in the dining hall after zazen, and he'd stay up late drinking tea, and he'd talk to you about anything. He was very open, warm, charismatic. He seemed to really care deeply about each individual,
yeah,
like on this trip of college students, and like see each one and connect and give them what they needed. And I had never really been interacted with in that way exactly before.
right,
And yes, and that felt like I want to be able to do that for people
right,
too.
right.
Yeah.
And so you visited, you got on the plane and went to Japan.
Yes, right after graduation, just like a day or two after graduation, I went, yeah, because Yusan was taking the group of Waldorf students from Whidbey Island over there. And then you were going to be a chaperone for that trip. But for some reason, I didn't fly over with all of you. I went like a couple days early on my own. And so I was at Sogenji a couple days before you all came. And how long? I don't know. Maybe I was there a week or something total when I first visited. And then we toured around Japan a little bit with Yusan and the Waldorf kids. But yeah.
What were there were some pretty cool women there at that time. What was it like meeting them for you?
Well, Jo-san for me is my big inspiration as far as a female senpai, for sure. So yeah, I remember when I first met her, she was just so intense. I remember like, I don't know, just the way her eyes were and her presence, you know, she's just like,
Yeah.
and yeah, and like you sound like warm-hearted, playful, energetic, like able to connect and be a big sister and feel that that love, and she was encouraging of me and all of that. That was good too. And Soke too, actually. She was like guest housekeeper, I think, when I first visited. And so actually it's funny, I am remembering now with, I remember like telling her, oh, I'm feeling like all this tension in my shoulders and my zazen, what do I do? And she recommended this to me then. I remember she first taught that to me on the deck of the guest house back then. So, and she too was just bright eyes, like so welcoming, wanting to make sure that I, you know, was, I don't know, just felt welcome. It felt welcoming and connected to have those people there for sure.
And the next, I guess it was in the next fall, you went and lived at Sogenji.
Right. Mm-hmm. So came back to Whidbey Island that summer, and I wanted to live at the monastery, but women weren't allowed to live there yet. So I had to live at a little farm nearby in a tent and like walk through the trails every morning to go to Zazen and work at the coffee shop and save up money. And then, and I think even that summer I was like, am I really going to do this? Am I going to go live in a monastery? I had met you. You were like, don't go live in that monastery. And but just in thinking about it more, I just felt that pull that was, you know, kind of beyond rationale. Though at the time I thought I'll go for 3 months. That was the way I could kind of rationalize it to myself. I don't know if I bought a return ticket. I think at that time you could buy open-ended tickets or something. So but my intention was to go for 3 months. Like that felt okay. I'm going to go for 3 months and just go live at this monastery. And then that kept extending.
Right.
So yeah, I went in the fall, and that would have been right after 9/11. My plane to Japan actually got delayed because of 9/11, and that was then the first time I had sanzen too. I hadn't done a seshinet to Homa or anything. And when I visited, after graduation, I hadn't done sanzen because I was just a visitor and hadn't established that sanzen relationship yet. So, yeah.
I think it's worth noting that, you know, it's pretty intense for a young woman to go to Japan and go live in a Zen monastery. It's an experimental place, so it's a bit unique. But you know, if you think of maybe men going, it's kind of like, well, why are you doing that? Bunch of nice people going and being real calm. But then I think if you think of women going, it's like, wow, that is amazing. That is really strong that you go and do that. And it is. And
Yeah.
that must have been like, can you just talk a little bit about what that was like it's a big challenge to get over to actually go and do that. And I don't know if you have anything to say about that.
Yeah. I don't know. At the time for myself personally, I think I was just like up for adventure.
Yeah.
You know how it is. I'm out of school. I don't know what's next. I don't own a couch or apartment or have a job. Like I have nothing tying me down.
Right.
And I was just up for something. And I was like a really passionate person. I wanted to pour my passion into something. Right. And this just was that for me.
Right.
And then as far as other people's responses, I don't know. I feel like when I tell people here, it was just so foreign and out there. I don't know if my gender really played a part. When I was in Japan and I would see people out and about and like little old Japanese ladies and tell them I was Shigyosha, it's like, oh, I think it seems strange for them. But yeah, I remember thinking that though, on some level for sure, like, what am I doing? Why am I going here? Obviously the Roshi's a male teacher, the Buddha's male, you know, from the Buddha to the Roshi, every morning you chant the names of like 5,000 men that have transmitted this thing, you know, so it can feel like, where do I fit? Where does like this body fit in, or my experience? But I mean, that's just the case with organized religion in the world today. I definitely thought of going around to look at maybe some really amazing Buddhist nuns. That would be amazing. But this is just where my karma brought me, and I trusted that, you
Right.
know. And I
Right.
think you're right. I think it definitely helped having like a Joseon and a
Yeah.
Soke, these big sister figures. And Yusan, like you say, he's not your idea of a traditional monk. He wasn't at that time. He was very personable. So it didn't feel like this austere male thing. Though
Right.
looking at it now, it definitely is in so many ways. I mean, the keisaku and even just like sitting still for hours on end rather than like femininely, you know,
Whirling.
dancing under the full moon or, you know, the kind of stuff I like to do now. But, so it was a stretch, but you know, in your zazen, you're facing yourself, you're using your own kufu, like, and you're, you know, you're touching something way beyond gender or form or structure. So if that's lighting me up, then that's all that matters, and that becomes the guide, and that's, you know, that's the thing that feels real outside of, oh, this is sort of a patriarchal system that's been going on forever. Yeah.
Okay, and um, also, I think it's worth sharing a little bit about, I think, your relationship with the Roshi. And um, honestly, often people are they're very enamored with the Roshi. He's you know, they love him. You know, he is very lovable in a lot of ways, and people would love to follow him around. That is very much an aspect at Sogenji, and I don't think you quite had that experience. And I think that's worth just noting to people watching, that one doesn't have to um, be so completely in love with the Roshi. Anything to say about that?
Right. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I didn't have that. Like a lot of people remember the first time they saw the Roshi and what that was like for them. I don't really remember that. I must have seen him at Tahoma when I was there helping in the kitchen and he was doing Osashin when 9/11 happened, or no, I guess on the visit. Yeah, I don't remember. Like I didn't have that, that's my teacher, like that's my person. That's not to say like if I watch him move, if I watch him eat his rice, make a matcha, like I feel it's incredible, you know, but it's not, yeah, I don't have this like I'm in love with him or feeling like I really wanted to get something from that relationship exactly, other than just the sanzen. And he didn't give that to me exactly. I mean, when I first got there, I think he did. He's excited about new people, and I was young and energetic, and you know, he's kind of like, oh, you know. But then that fades away, and I don't know that in his mind I was ever like someone who was going to be a big teacher, or he wasn't like pumping me up to be anything exactly. Which, you know, sometimes it would bother me, or I felt like, does he really see me? I don't get this. Like, doesn't he think I'm wonderful? um, but that's not to say we didn't have a great connection, or like I know when I got my name and did my little lay ordination ceremony for that and got my name, I felt really like a strong commitment, and like he saw me and his choosing of his name for me and everything. I felt like I, yeah, it's both, I guess. Like I feel a really um like so grateful to him, so grateful for his guidance and for the space that he offers there, and yeah, his reflections in sanzen. And um during my Dokusashin, that was also like I just did a week Dokusashin at one point, and that was a time that I felt really connected with him. And in a way, yeah, I always feel connected to him, or like he's with me, or his teachings are there. But it's not exactly personal in that way, which made leaving the monastery easier for me, probably. And or I wasn't wanting to get like a father figure thing from him. I think some people definitely get that mixed in, or I wasn't trying to make him all his special food and be his surrogate wife or whatever. People kind of jar for that position. I didn't speak Japanese. I was just like this kind of goofy American
Yeah,
young person there.
yeah,
Yeah.
great, great. Um,
Hmm.
and then you left, and
Yeah.
and you were pregnant. You were onto a new chapter, being a mother. And what was that like to leave the training and then go and embark on that?
Yeah. Well, that was amazing. I mean, in a way it was. In a way, I find it to be this perfect preparation for motherhood, were those 5 years of training there. And I know the Roshi said that to me too when I left, and I was pregnant, but we did a session at Tahoma while I was pregnant. He basically said, like, all this was preparation for you to, become one with your child now and be like completely dedicated mother. Um, and it made leaving easy. That made leaving easy too, because it was so clear.
Yeah.
We kind of got lucky in that way. It wasn't like, oh, I got to make up some, stretch a story about a sick relative to try to get out the door here. I remember telling him I was pregnant, and he just kind of, okay. And then it was just clear, and he wasn't, he wasn't going to punish me for that at all or anything. He was very supportive and just, okay, well, then you need to go home and get the best care you can for you and your baby. And, he wanted both of us to continue our training and, just like, this is your new chapter, this is your new karma. And so, yeah, I think it did help prepare us for parenthood, just like wanting to be, um, if we're each born with this incredible innate Buddha nature, and then all these things get layered onto that as we live and are parented and schooled and socialized, and just life happens. So I think for us, because the training was about touching that deep essence of who we are, then when our children came in, we could kind of see them for that essence of who they were, and wanting to really support that and honor that, and not try to put our own ideas about, you should be a lawyer, or I want you to be this for me and live my unfulfilled dreams. Trying to be just like really clear, really present, really nurture like the wholeness, the innate wholeness, the innate Buddha nature that they are. And just, parenting takes so much out of you. So in that way, Shugyo training was so great. If it's not getting a lot of sleep and just being on all the time and ready to just, this needs to be clean, this needs to be done.
Yes.
Surrender to that, because we had, and also for me, I think, a lot of people, I'm sure, when they become a mother, it's hard because their identity shifts so much, and they have to give up, maybe if they choose to, working or extracurricular activities that used to define who they were. And I'd given up so many of those things in order to go train in the Zen monastery. So that made it easier too, to just like let go and surrender and just be in this role of caregiver.
Yes.
100%.
Yes. Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. Right. Let's talk a little bit about unschooling and how that came about. How did that happen?
Right. Well, I guess that's similar to what I was just saying. And I mean, for people watching who don't know, unschooling is, I mean, technically it's a form of homeschooling, but I would say it goes like much beyond that. It's sort of a lifestyle way of being with your kids, especially the way we do it. So it is life without school, and it's learning through life and natural learning, and following your interests and following your passions, and having like the parent-child relationship be very connected and very consensual, I want to say, like partnering together to make life happen and make decisions, rather than, okay, go do this right now, child, or learn this, or sit down and do that. So yeah, for me, that was, I'm sure that I was attracted to that, especially after the Zen experience. So why would that be exactly? I guess partly because that, yeah, like I say, like coming from academia, this was such a refreshing thing to do Zen and like shed so many layers and constructs of who we are and how we think about the world and what we've been taught, and learning more to live life from this inner guided space, from like your own connection to reality and trusting that. And so unschooling is an expression of that, and so supporting your kids to do that as well, for their own, following that inner compass that they have innately, and not trying to mess with that too much,
Right.
though it happens inevitably.
Right. And I think, um, kind of saying, to the world, maybe you don't have it right. I think that was kind of something we felt. And so we went to Japan, and then maybe
Right.
unschooling sort of, well, there's this rebellious aspect to the training that I think is, in a sense, we were feeling like, well, I don't know that this is what people need. Just because you say that doesn't mean that we believe that.
Yeah.
And so that rebellious spirit, to challenge or to think outside of the box, or to, um, yeah, kind of see a different perspective, I think, you know, uh,
Yes, that is so true. Hmm.
right. And that pure, um, yeah, that, like every child is the Christ child,
Yeah.
everyone is pure, their pure mind, and
Hmm.
that that is the base, that's the real. And then adding, things onto that is okay, but it's not that we're adding them to become better or something in a certain way, right?
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Hmm.
What else?
I don't know. I feel like I should ask you something.
Oh,
Like I want to ask it all back to you now. Yeah.
yeah,
Well, we've been so lucky we have each other,
yeah, well, that's true.
right? I mean, as far as transitioning out of the monastery or choosing this wacky parenting style and all of that, we have each other to process all of that with, and figure out together. So
Yeah, and
yeah,
we joke that we have this Japanglish, that we speak this strange language, and we do. And um, these strange phrases that, this Basque person at Sogenji speaks, or uh,
right.
our own strange jokes, and also I think this flavor of, yeah, this flavor of interacting with, with life, and trust and faith in, this innate aspect, this, and also this energetic, orientation to feeling life instead of figuring it out, and all of that, you know
Yes.
yeah. So I know I'm so lucky, because anyone else would probably, we would just be very lonely, strange people in a certain way. No, I'm so fortunate. And I want to say about, um, Teresa. Shojun means bright, pure. Isn't that beautiful? I think that really, encompasses her. But, thinking about her when she started this posture. I mean, she has this long. Look at her. She has this long waist, long back. But this posture. I was sort of a, you really, in this, vibrant posture from the start, kind of sitting with her legs, not right, but this posture still, and uh, we would, Yusan and I would comment about that. And so,
I
like,
remember Diane. Diane told me once that I was like the tallest person in the Zendo. We were
sure.
sitting down. That was long torso.
My face is
Hopefully I relaxed over time. Relaxed a little bit.
right. There's that too, for sure. But yeah, like my face was on the tom, bending over, suffering, and you're Uh, uh, that's fun.
Oh,
So,
nice.
so like, for you,
Mhm.
what are you into now? Because I think this is also really great because so many people who are into Zen, that's like it for them. They're just like thinking about Zen. That's all they're doing, and that's great.
Right.
But for you, I
Mhm.
think you're it's not who you are exclusively. You're doing other things. It's changed. You've been gone 15 years, and what
Right.
what are you into now?
Mhm. Yeah, I know. The Zen, even like when I was at Sogenji, I don't know. I mean, I can't say I wasn't into Zen because I loved the Zen training, but I was never like, you know, reading a bunch of books about Zen, or I'm not knowledgeable about the lineages or who taught or what. I never have been, or in reading the sutras or any of that. Like I just loved the sitting and the energetics and the embodiment, and so that's and like that question of what is it? What's making us alive? What is this? What's happening right now? How
Right.
do I align my life with that? So that's all just the same for me. It just expresses differently now, I guess. For sure, yeah, I try to make it express as well as I can through parenting, through relationship, through I don't know, friendships, or work with our neighbors here in our co-housing,
Right.
and I mean, I'd like to get back to performing at some point too. We've talked about that, of course, but maybe acting again. I love to write.
Nice.
And then, yeah, there's different ways I'm exploring different expressions of spirituality that are more feminine right now.
Yeah.
Movement, ecstatic dance. Um, I'm in my like a moon club group where we meet on the full moon and new moon, and like that, working with different energies of the moon and emotions. Actually, emotions are a huge thing for me. I'm a very emotional person, and then obviously kids are super emotional.
Yeah.
So, before I had kids, I thought I never got angry. I never did get angry. And I was a very patient person. And then you have kids and suddenly, you're yelling at them over something you've lost, you've been pushed to that limit and beyond. And so that's just been like mirrored back to me by them constantly. Like, how can I hold their big emotions? The only way I can do that is to like honestly go into those places within myself. So a lot of my work has been just on my own, just emotional, like feeling into all the little hidden stretching aspects of the human experience, and for me that means the emotional life of a human, and getting comfortable in those places and working with the energy of those places to transmute it and change it and learn from it and heal and grow and be a better parent. And that's a big passion for me right now.
Right. In maybe like how would you parent yourself type of thing.
Oh, yes.
Kind of what
Yes. Parenting myself in real time.
right,
Yes.
right,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
right, right. What's that
That's,
like? Yeah.
what is that
Yeah,
like?
like what can you explain a little bit more about that too?
Well, yeah, I guess for me, it's like this symbiotic thing of trying to be like this wonderful mother for the kids, but then, knowing that I have my own limits and that I'm human. And so when I hit those limits in myself, then doing what I need to in that space to take care of myself. And I don't know, I can almost, you access that greater universal energy, right? And it's like that's really what's parenting all of us all the time is what we're all birthed from and what we return to. So like accessing that and letting that be the thing that I can fall back onto, and
Yeah,
in times of distress, just the way I try to be that for the kids.
right,
So
right.
I don't know. It can happen in little ways, or just like noticing what I do for my children, how much I love them and want to give and help them follow their interests and their passions. And I was like do that for myself as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And seeing that kind of huge, kind of pure spirit in them, and having that be a kind of measuring stick where you feel, um, what it is to encounter, someone, and then feeling how your own internal world, you're there, like a barbarian, blocking it or fighting it, or not necessarily you, but most of us in some way, we're not really feeling our
Right.
internal aspect, where for our kids, we might, um, opened up to them in a certain way, but our own process, we're unconsciously blocking ourselves and not listening, and not opening up these places which are old and traumatized and all that. So I think
Right.
that part of makes sense to me about that parenting your own aspect. You can use that same aspect of relating with them to see, oh, I can relate to this openness in myself
Mm,
in a new creative way.
yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. That's beautifully said. I like that.
right.
Yeah.
Well, what's next for you? What's next for you?
I don't know. We'll see.
I mean, we're done
Yeah.
having kids, so
Huh? We're done having kids. Yeah, yeah. So I do feel like I'm kind of coming out of this 15-year uh, intense training of being like really on as a mom. Now that Simone's 5, it's like a little bit more, getting a little more space in my life for trying to think about what's next.
yeah,
And so, yeah, I do have thoughts of definitely ways of incorporating, well, my whole life experience so far, but yeah, the Zen training, the spirituality, the motherhood, um, congealing all of that into maybe something that I can offer in a more direct way. Like now, I'm for sure offering to the kids, and then how to kind of take that out to a little bit broader sphere of, yeah, everything we're just talking about, the reparenting, the emotional life, the meeting the kids where they're at, like accessing this space in ourselves as parents that's open and stable and clear, and then bringing that back into the relationship with the children. So I do have thoughts of creating some kind of offering, with all of that in mind, because that's what I'm most passionate about right now.
right, right.
Mhm.
And I think it's, you know, people have lots of ideas about the Zen training, but I think for us, it was a medium, it was a venue to explore how to, relate with life, with this great life energy, with our own creative process. And we were over there in these old farmers' clothes, eating genmai, but we could have been somewhere else, getting in touch with the same, essence. And then, learning how to, the training is really a way to, dance with that and push against it and pull and see how it moves. And then you get that sense of that, and then you can take it out and you can express it in these unique ways. And I think that's what I think we all thought that about you, that you would go and, express it in your own way. And I just think that's really beautiful. And I think people can see that. I hope they can get that from this too, that, we can use the training to touch upon this essential aspect and then creatively use it in our own way. And
Yeah.
that's beautiful.
Yes. 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 For sure. And for me, that's like why I wanted to go to Sogenji. Like I wanted to get that, and then how do I transmute it? Which in a way can be a distraction to being there fully, right? Because I'm always kind of like, well, when can I leave? Because I love this, but I want to express it. And I remember early on asking the Roshi that, remember we used to have those, now I can't remember what they were called. It was more informal, like Q&A session at the kitchen tables early on. We just had a few. Anyway, I remember asking like,
Yeah.
okay, but this is supposed to be about helping all sentient beings. So when can I leave? And he said something like, when you realize your life is not your own. And I was like, I have no idea what that means, you know, but
Right. Right.
but so I was kind of always anticipating when I can leave. And then it was like right around the time I was surrendering to actually being there, where I felt like, oh, wait, I get it. I never asked for any of this to happen. I didn't even try to really seek out a Zen monastery. Like it just came to me, this experience and this opportunity. And I'm so grateful for it. And I've like, whatever, changed here so much, grown, let go of so much. Like I feel so deeply grateful for this practice. And I'm just going to keep doing just this, you know, just this and not think about the next thing. And it wasn't too long after that that the next thing showed itself to us. But yeah, anyway, yeah, the hope is definitely to, you're right, you could get it anywhere. Like we were saying, it was just our karma that we ended up with that teacher in that system from, in that place at that particular time.
Right.
But we were just thirsty for that,
Right.
that
Right.
essential nature wherever we could get it, and then
Right.
expressing it. Yeah.
Right. Right. Very fortunate, I think, that way. I think
Mhm.
that we were pretty lucky in that way.
Right.
Yeah. Well, so wonderful. What else? Anything else you want to say? Any more take home? How about, you know, new people getting into spirituality or into practice? What do
Oh.
you recommend? What's your
Ugh, that's a good question. I don't know. I think like we were saying, of just, trying to be in that state of trust as much as possible. And like if you have that sincere intention and desire within yourself, like you feel that pull to spiritual practice, then just be open to the ways that it, how it might end up looking for you.
right,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Great, great, great. Love it. Okay. All right. Well, I think that's a good place for us to start. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
joining us. And I think people will get something out of this. And it may, yeah, it may touch someone in a really interesting way that they can maybe pursue some aspect that they're kind of waiting to for permission to explore maybe. So thank you so much. So
So,
great to have you here.
so great to be here. Thank you, babe.
You're welcome. Okay, okay. I'm gonna go now. Okay.
Okay.
Bye-bye. Thank you, everyone. Okay.